and in the past.
I don't know what it is with me and like everything today, but I'm just like,
I'm telling you, Karen, the energies are crazy, and like, look at all my, my notes. Like, I got notes upon notes
what's
upon
going on?
notes. It's gonna be nutty. And then I've got this old thing that's helping me see it that way. But wow, when everything moves into Aquarius, man, whoo-wee. And right now I'm doing my research on Uranus square Saturn. And it's like, wow.
Having such a time.
I'm going to have a link to an article that's really cool about, you know, the historical stuff. And one of them is September 11th. So, and I'm fairly certain I was talking about that earlier this year. So I'm going to get a clip from that video as well. But it's, and then when the wall fell in Berlin.
Yeah.
So, and Black Monday, stock market crash in 87. So, you know, this is a really serious aspect. And I think we have a couple more from now until 2023. So, so, you know, as much as Aquarius is all about brotherly love and innovations of the future, you know, it also signaled the rise of the Third Reich. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, 1933. So this was the square, like, and that's what we're in. We're in the Uranus squares as opposed to just an opposition. So the Wall Street crash in 1929 led to the Great Depression and record levels of unemployment, which triggered the New Deal in 1933. So, you know, everybody's talking about everything changing and, you know, this reset thing that people are talking about. And then it was also the establishment of the Third Reich and the rise of Hitler in 1933 when Saturn entered Aquarius.
All right. But you know, Leo, I was listening to his Leo King's predictions today.
Yeah.
And he was this whole like regrouping or like restructuring of like work and monetary systems and stuff like that. It's going to be going until for another 2-3 years, like 2024. I think he said.
That's yeah. It's the same. It's the same deal. It's the same deal.
Yeah.
Because it really is all about Uranus. You know. So.
That's what he said.
Right? I notice I'm very careful about my pronunciation of Uranus.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, just because, you know, the giggles and stuff.
I still get the giggles anyways, even when you say it.
I know. So does everybody else, you know, so I don't know why I resist it.
It's about it though at the same time, yes.
Yeah, no, there's it's definitely like a good mix of opportunity and obstacles.
Is it our own obstacles or like what?
Yeah, a little bit. Definitely obstacles in terms of our thinking, and there's a lot of the signs are having existential crises right now. So one of the reminders I'm going to have in my reports is that like we're all, you know, in an existential crisis. How could we not be?
Yeah, considering the year that we just went through, of course.
Right? And so the astrology of it is actually supporting us through it. We just don't we just don't necessarily see it that way.
Right.
So, yeah, crazy.
You know, actually, this morning I took the time. I had a really great morning. I told you about this earlier, right? That I did some self hypnosis. I did a little experiment. I was so freaking excited. I have to tell you about this.
You're such a nerd. I love it.
I know. So our instructor told us that if we do, like, if we go through our triggers and we put ourselves into self hypnosis, and you tell your superconscious mind, look, superconscious mind, I only have 20 minutes today, so like do whatever it is that you need to do, run programs, whatever's coming up as priorities that you can take care of in 20 minutes. Just run the programs, do whatever, and then you set up the trigger for yourself so that you like so that your hand that's programmed with somnambulism will fall when your superconscious mind is done, and then it'll wake you up, right?
Okay.
This morning I'm like, I'm so cheeky, right? I was like, okay, superconscious mind, I only have 6 minutes. 6 minutes, not 5.
Are you with me?
I have 6 minutes. I have until, like, it was like 9:20. I'm like, I have until 9:20, 6 minutes. Run whatever programs you need to. Like, take me to Peace Deep and High, and like tell me when I'm there. And then when you're done, you know, bring me up. But I have until 9:20. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, and I could feel my fingers were twitching, and I was like, oh, okay, weird, all right. And I don't know, I was just kind of like laying there and relaxing, and I could feel myself like just being deeply relaxed. And I was like, okay, this is super cool. And then I was like, my arm kind of seems like it's falling. And then next thing I know, it was down. And then I like slowly woke up and opened my eyes, and I looked at my clock. I was like, big smile on my face, right? Because I'm like, this doesn't work. I looked at the clock. Oh, look at that, it's 9:20.
Wow.
Yeah, and the whole time too, like my conscious mind was like, this is not gonna work. As if my higher mind is gonna know when it's been 6 minutes. And yeah, our instructor, she swears by it. She's like, you'll see, you'll come out of it like, you know, with like a minute, or like she was talking like a longer frame of time, like an hour or something like that. She's like, yeah, you'll come out with like, you know, a couple minutes to spare beforehand.
Fascinating.
6 minutes.
Well done.
I also did some work in my workshop, like separately outside of that today. And there was some stuff with like walls that were there. I was like, at first it was a message on my phone about building blocks, like building blocks of your business. And then I was like, wait a second, are these building blocks or are they my blocks?
Interesting how that flipped.
I was like, are they building things up? Or is like, because I'm like, this looks more like a wall to me. And I'm like,
wow, so cool.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, so I just kind of had to look at that and was like, okay, is this something that I should be building up, or is it something that needs to be torn down? So I was like, I didn't get any deeper into it than that, but I made a note of it. So like next time when I go in, I can look at that a little bit more. So.
Wow.
And do you know, I know you know this, but what is, tell me more about bee medicine.
About what?
Medicine. Bee, like honey bee.
Oh, bee medicine. Is about community.
Is about community?
Yeah, and it's definitely about working together for a greater good. It can also, you know, I mean, if you're looking at shadow and light aspects, you know, it's like the hive mind. you know, the sort of the costs and benefits that go with that kind of thing. You know, and then of course with honey, you know, it's sweetness, you know, that if people are working together again for the common goal, there's sweet results, you know, just kind of, you know, that kind of deal. So it's like, you know, the shadow aspect would be like Borg, you know, the Borg of a hive mind as opposed to individuality.
Right.
But then it's also, but then, you know, in its higher form, it can be about service.
Worker bee.
Yeah.
This is a very royal bee, though.
Oh, yeah?
Named Sir Henry.
What's that?
My spirit animal right now, or yeah, like my animal in my workshop, it was a bee. And I asked him what his name was, and he said Henry. And I was just like, well, nice to no. He's like, no, Sir Henry. And I was like, well, nice to meet you, Sir. No, Sir Henry the Third. And I was like, well, okay then.
Well, sounds like you got a lot of cheeky energy for the way you went into it too, right?
Well, okay. So here's my my current guy. I got new guides. So yeah, so there's the bee that I just brought them all in like recently, so I'm just getting to know them today. So he's a royal bee, and he's there to teach me how to be royal.
Ooh.
Which was weird.
Okay.
He said his first piece of advice for me was, always smile.
Ah.
You never see them, you know, royalty, you never see them like scowling or worried or whatever. They're always smiling. They're always smiling at everybody. So you just always smile. And not to be like putting on a facade or anything like that, but
right.
Like it was just kind of like, you're happy, so you should smile, you know, like, but also like that's what, and then he said, be on time.
We're working on it.
Well, and I think that was the whole thing. He was just like, you know, the queen, she's got like appointments everywhere. Do you think she's ever late for anything? Do you think she's ever like putting something off because she doesn't feel like it?
Well, and I would hazard a guess too that as we progress through our little experiment, that we're going to get on the topic of delegation. You know,
having heart palpitations right now. Can we not talk about this?
Absolutely. But that's really cute how the bee jumped in like that. What else did the bee say?
Those are the two pieces of advice he had for me. And then I asked him what he needed, and he just said as many flowers as you could give me. I gave him a bouquet of flowers at first, and then I thought, well, that's kind of lame because I can give him like a whole freaking garden of flowers. I don't have to give him like a vase.
Right.
So I was like, you got all the flowers you want. And so it's funny, like I went to say goodbye to him, and he had like his face in the pollen, and he was just like totally like drunk on the pollen.
Right.
This is weird, me telling you this stuff. So my male and female guides are pretty funny right now too, actually.
Oh yeah?
So like before, I've had my most recent male guide was Hagrid, and Dorothy was my female guide from the Wizard of Oz. And then
brilliant.
That, right? And then so they were kind of like done. They left.
Right.
I actually couldn't find them anymore. And so I've invited in new guys, And my male guide is Neil Patrick Harris.
What?
From like, and he was just like, comes in like legend, wait for it, dairy.
A legend what?
Legendary.
Legendary.
That was his line from How I Met Your Mother.
Okay.
So, but he played like a super like not even metrosexual. He was, well, I guess, yeah, he was kind of metrosexual. He was like a super bad, he was like a heterosexual player in that show. But like,
yes,
I know him as like musical, weird ass, gay as F, like creepy. Like he's got a weird, sick mind, I think.
Really?
No, I mean, just some of the things that I've seen him, like some of the roles that I've seen him play, like.
He kind of makes you squeamish?
No, like in a good way. He's like.
Oh, okay.
He's weird like me. I love it.
That's funny.
It makes people uncomfortable. I don't know. And it kind of makes me uncomfortable, but also like I'm just like fascinated by him.
Yeah. Kind of like Ed Norton.
Yes. Yeah.
I love Ed Norton. Apparently he's really hard to work with, which I can imagine, but he's brilliant in terms of like totally throwing you off, you know. He's done some really good surprise roles. What's that?
Astrological signs they are.
Oh, Ed Norton. Is he a Virgo? I had a big crush on him many years ago. Okay, so first, who was the first guy that you said? Oh, right, Neil Patrick Harris, is it? There it is.
And you're breaking the ocean.
What's that?
The ocean.
Nice. Well done. You know what? I think that, you know, as much as I like having Marshall over my shoulder, I actually think I'm going to change it. I like the stars today. Where is my preferences? Okay, so my background, I'm going to go with, yeah, there we go. I'm kind of feeling more of this tonight. But, you know.
I've got my diffuser going and like I need.
Okay, so Neil Patrick Harris is, he's a Gemini. And let's look at Ed Norton.
Yeah, that would make sense because he's totally like, he is two separate people, that one.
Yeah, I thought he was a Virgo. Oh, no, he's a Leo. Oh, but he's a Scorpio rising like me, so. Yeah, his sun is in Leo. He's a Leo. And his moon is in Libra, and he's Scorpio rising. My God, no wonder I had a crush on him. That's crazy.
Libra.
What's that?
Libra.
Well, because his moon would be conjunct my sun, and our ascendants are conjunct. And then Leo, you know, is usually a fairly good match for me, somebody that I can get along with. Although I can't say that that's been the case for the last couple of years. But, you know.
What is my perfect match?
Aquarius? Well, like, were we talking about this the other day? That it's like, or I think I was, maybe I was talking to Marissa about this. Your Jupiter often points to the partner that you're most likely to have based on your karmic stuff.
Okay, listen.
I mean, I could be wrong, but that's kind of what that's the basic idea.
My Jupiter's in Leo.
Your Jupiter's in Leo. Well, there you go.
And Leo is my...
And that's your opposite, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I doing? I don't want that. I'm so confused. All my applications. Like, what am I running again? Okay. All right. So what was I going to look up again? Oh, no, I was going to look at your chart, but you beat me to it. So, yeah, my Jupiter is in Leo as well. Oddly enough. So, yeah, depending on your soul's lessons, I think that's the partner that you're most likely going to be dealing with things, you know? That's the arrow. It's kind of like the arrow.
I'm not planning to do that ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't had a chance yet, but I'm excited about future talks on this 3 brain stuff. Because we can actually look at it like squared, because there's 2. There's the neocortex, the limbic, and the reptilian, the 3 levels within the brain. Yeah. And then there's the 3 of the head, heart, and gut. So
I've got stuff in my body talk book that I pulled out. I went in my bookshelf yesterday and was like, what kind of things can I get for Andy for us to talk about?
Right. And I figure, you know, we can talk about that kind of stuff, and I'll do a little bit more research into McLuhan's experiences. Because as I told you, not sure you were aware, but McLuhan had a stroke, and so he was compromised in his ability to speak, but his brain was doing the same. So he was doing a lot of research on the brain as a result of that experience. So there's a whole chapter of McLuhan's study that focuses on the brain, which I think would be fascinating to bring into that conversation, you know?
Absolutely.
And then hopefully getting Bob on board later on, once I've established a pattern, you know, bring him and take it a whole new level. I know. And but you see, this is where it becomes important, because, you know, if you see a big deal with the moon, then you can be prepared, right? As to how to deal with it.
Over a week, I'm already losing my mind. I set myself up so good this morning, Andy. I grounded. I did stuff in my workshop. I did self-hypnosis this morning. I was good. I was feeling good.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, because this is part of what you're actually coming into with Mercury going retrograde at the end of this month. Okay, so the shadow period is already creeping in, which is why you're right. So yeah, and so we've got right on the 28th of January. That's when we have. Is that the new moon?
No, full.
It's a full moon. Okay. Right. Okay. The new moon. And then you've got, okay, so you got a full moon in Leo in January. And then the new moon that comes 2 weeks later is in Aquarius.
Yeah.
Okay. So what Mercury retrograde in Aquarius means for Aquarius, because it's happening in your first house. So that's your identity. Okay. So what I've written down here is let go and let the new you emerge into the new age and show us all how it's done. Only the focus this time is not focusing. I see your little smirky smirk. And how to surrender to confusion and stay in the magic of the big, slow reveal of the new you. Because it's like a lot of the times.
Face of confusion to a face of terror.
Yeah, but this is the thing. It's like the things that it's like you just kind of have to think of yourself floating on the river, and you're not really sure where you're going and how long it's going to take you to get there. That's the best way to navigate the next like 5 to 6 weeks.
And I'm trying to get organized.
Well, yeah, and that's you're reviewing. So as long as you keep doing what you're doing right now, only your reaction to it is what needs to change. That's all. So it's like rather than thinking that the universe is conspiring against all of your grand plans, think of it as you actually haven't witnessed the rebirth of yourself just yet. And that you're in almost like the transition phase of labor. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. So transition phase of labor is that moment where it's like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Like just before you have to push or just before, the baby's born, it's like all of a sudden there's that last minute panic of whether you can actually cross this threshold. It's very common for women to go through that. You may not have gone through it. I know I did in my own way.
Like 20 hours.
Yeah. So it's like, so think of this as the 20-hour labor where you can't do anything to control what's going on right now. And the whole trick is that, especially as an Aquarius, you have to say it's because you're establishing a whole new pattern. So it's the first time that you're doing anything. It's like the first time you're breathing again. It's like you don't know. So it's about letting go and realizing that you're actually being carried by something else right now, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. You're just supposed to be a casual observer and don't get attached to what isn't happening, because it's going to happen, and you just got to keep going and doing what you're doing and reviewing and rechecking everything and continuing to, to make the changes towards what you're building to, but not to get frustrated with the lack of progress, because you are progressing. It's just not happening as fast as you want to see it. That's all. So, and this particular Mercury retrograde is going to be affecting, like, this is what I mean. It's like, like a good third of the zodiac is going through an existential identity crisis. You're rebirthing. So there are other signs that are going through the death and psyche stuff that you've been going through for the past 2 years. That's why you're going through a different dynamic within your first house. It's like it's right up front. No inner psyche, stirring up anymore. That's done. Now it's time to put it into action, but it's like it's an engine that has to slowly wind up again, and then by the time you hit March, you got a rhythm going. Theoretically. So.
What do you mean theoretically it could be longer than that?
I mean, I'm hitting a lot of curveballs in my research for what, I mean, and the curveballs could be good. You know, it's like they don't all have to be earth shattering and, you know, destructive. But, you know, it's like if we all think generally that things need to change, we need to kind of feel the pain of decay and cleaning that up. And then conversely, the pain of giving birth to something that we don't know because it's unfamiliar. So
It's unfamiliar also, like, especially if you're doing it for the first time.
right. And so that's why, you know, creativity is being stimulated. I'm fairly certain that a lot of these alignments that we're going through right now coincide with the Renaissance. But don't quote me on that. But I seem to remember stumbling on that. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who feel inspired, you know. And then also, you know, the kind of stuff that comes through in tragedy as well. You know, some pretty beautiful, you know, some beautiful things come out of, you know, people sharing these big moments. So, yeah, best of times, worst of times. But that's been apparently too, like this particular cycle of all this Saturn stuff that's going on right now, that it actually started in 1988. So when you think about how, you know, all the thing, you know, like 88 and 87, that was like Tiananmen Square. 88, 89.
I was 9.
Oh, were ya? That was just before I had kids for me.
Yeah, so I like have no idea.
Yeah, I would have been like, I don't know, 24, 25. So
Definitely playing with my gem doll,
yeah.
My Little Ponies, and
So it's going to be interesting. These won't be boring years, that's for sure.
they sure haven't been so far. So
No. So yeah. And what date is it today? It is the 19th of January.
like January, bye, see you.
Mm-hmm. That's all right. Like I said, the thing to remember for you is that everybody is having the same struggles you are. That's the big thing to remember. So that you're not judgy to yourself, you know?
I'm feeling judgy to myself. I don't know why I'm so crabby though.
Well, because okay. Mars and Taurus in the 4th house.
I was gonna ask you where Mars was right now.
Yeah, it's right, and then Taurus square, or then Uranus and Taurus square. So that means that Mars is also going to be involved in that Uranus
Relationship.
Uranus Saturn. It's in the 4th house, which is home. So
relationships, communication, it's all in one of those like always in something where it's like affecting it.
yeah, you know? because like, so Mars left Aries at the beginning of January, moved into Taurus, right? Well, it stays in Taurus for a while.
Yeah. What does it that?
So it stays until the first, I think it's the 4th of March. Cancer as well.
Oh, good, my
Scorpio
son.
too. Yeah. So all the water signs are going to be a mess.
Oh, my whole household.
What's that?
My whole household.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So Cancer, internal emotional soul searching, learning the strength of vulnerability, learning how strong you are, dark night of the soul, rebirth, boundaries and enforcing them, leaving behind emotional baggage that doesn't define you. So, yeah, the water signs are definitely going to be like big puddles everywhere. It's my Scorpio rising. But Scorpio actually out of the 3 is doing much better than normal. So it's like for Scorpio,
No tower.
everything is about relationships right now because Mars in Taurus is in the seventh house. And then Mercury retrograde in Aqua is in the 4th house. So reflections on past emotional issues surrounding childhood, family, and the idea of what home means to you. A very good time to heal family issues and disagreements, as well as mending old friendships. So it's a little easier on the Scorpios this go round. Any other signs you want me to give you a little preview of?
No.
Yeah, Geminis are doing a lot of reflection too because Mercury's their ruler. So the water signs, Gemini and Virgo, are going to be the ones that have the greatest challenges in February. Yep. So you're not even on that list even.
And I'm having a planet party.
So basically you're going to have you know what Mercury retrograde is going to do? And it's gonna really, really teach you more and more about perfect is the enemy of good. Aim high, get close, stuff like that. Those are gonna be.
It's gonna bring me lots of clients because everybody else is fucked up.
That's true too. See, and you have the tools to help them out.
Existential crisis.
Well, this is it. You know, when I talk to my clients and I hit something that I can't help them with just, my witty personality, and I can say, well, hey, you got to check out my friend Karen. So, you want to do a few cards before you go to bed?
Yes, please.
Can we ask for you as well as something that would be interesting for the collective that I could? Can you think of a question around the collective that we could ask together?
Yes. But give me a second. So there's like a general vibe of like 2021 being better than 2020.
Okay.
That like an idealistic view, or is that are things actually going to be like, how do we approach 2021? We're in January, so we're like still thinking fresh and like still coming out of that?
It's going to be obstacles and opportunities. And I remember something too, back when we were like 20 years ago, when I first, hit Bob and that whole crowd. And and we were getting messages from Marshall McLuhan, James Joyce, and Frank Zappa through a medium in the UK who called herself Glow. And so we would have the game that Marshall asked us to play through Glow was we had to write down a question on a Post-it and then put it on our computer and then go to the forum and just type, okay, I have a question. You weren't supposed to put in your posting what your question was. It was supposed to just be on your computer, right? So that was part of the magic of the game, is like, can Marshall, Frank, and James Joyce answer the question that you've written down on your little Post-it? So I went in and I posted, I've got a question on my Post-it. I think it was like, what is it going to feel like as we go through these changes? Because it was evident, around September 11th that we were coming into a new place, right? So, and that things were changing and shifting. And so he said, expansion and contraction, expansion and contraction. And so, right? It is breathing, very, very observant. How come I can't hear you anymore?
Really?
Oh, now I can. Okay.
I was quietly, that's all.
Yeah. So it's like breathing. So it's like learning how to breathe again. Isn't that funny? Didn't I say that earlier? That it is. It's going to be like learning how to breathe again. Like,
for me specifically.
Yeah. And it's actually very Neo too, right? Like when Neo comes out of the Matrix, and he's like, why do my eyes hurt? And it's like, because you've never used them before. So, stuff like that. So yeah, that's a really good question. Let's see what the cards have to say for to give us a little bit more insight into this dynamic. But yeah, I mean, the pull, the dynamic between Jupiter and Saturn,
Yeah.
and then Uranus and Taurus, for an extended period of time.
And is it Jupiter or Saturn that's going to be
or sorry, not Mars, Uranus in Taurus for an extended period of time. Go ahead.
Yeah, is it Jupiter or Saturn that takes a long time? That you're supposed to do, like, is it your Saturn return that you're supposed to look at?
Well, this is what you're having, if I'm not mistaken, is your Saturn return. So your last one would have been, what was it that you said? Well, your Saturn return would have happened 20 years ago.
I think it was actually it was happening 30 years ago.
Or 27. Maybe it's 27 years.
Yeah. I mean, this is I was told that by the time I'm on my way out of it. So this is like the end of a 30-year cycle for me. And right. I'm on next year, by the time over the next 3 years, then I'm going to be in a new cycle. So I'm just on the end of this old cycle. And that's why things are changing so rapidly, finally.
Well, this is it, because Jupiter and Saturn together is what's creating the tension. And Jupiter is with you for a shorter period of time than Saturn. Jupiter's just over a year, and Saturn is like 18 months, I think, almost 2 years.
Yeah, 2 year. It's a 2-year cycle.
Right. And I told you too that actually it was right around the time when I met Bob that that I was first aware of Jupiter in my sign. And oh my goodness, I felt like I kept on saying that I felt like a helium balloon because like I just felt like I kept on expanding, you know, and that it was getting tight, you know. So so yeah. All right. So 3 cards. Yeah, okay. Started out with the Knight of Swords. So yeah, confrontations, charging forward. Ooh, Ace of Pentacles. That's nice. And yeah, it's all about Aquarius. So, oh, can you say Aquarius?
Is this the collective or is this me then?
This is the collective.
Oh, that's funny.
And so we have the Ace of Pentacles, but it's surrounded by, so it started out with this guy, the Knight of Swords, so charging in like super fast.
Yeah.
Confrontational. It's coming in confrontational. So that's kind of a relief that it's starting out confrontational, that it's not ending confrontational. So we've got the Knight of Swords because it's a new beginning, walking through a new doorway.
Yeah, January totally been like the political climate and stuff.
And then we've got the King of Swords. So, you know, that's like boundaries, clarity, maturity, communication, very concise, you know, visionary. And then the surrounding energies are the Page of Swords. So this kind of, the impression I'm getting from it is kind of like, you know, you've got to have the confrontation to sort of bust through, you know, the membrane of it all in order to find the new beginning. And what emerges is a new clarity, a new maturity, new abilities to mark boundaries and to see the way forward that enables you to bring back that sort of childlike, as opposed to childish, you know, childlike perspective, you know, the quirky weirdo that all Aquariuses, you know, have inside. You know, that's just going to be the breath of fresh air to situations, you know. So it's like it's not a regression, you know, from maturity to immaturity. It's about achieving this maturity so that you can free this part of you.
Lighten up, people.
This is kind of what I'm thinking, you know, because the Aquariuses are going to be the nurturers, you know, and this kind of special magical energy within the community, you know, and everybody's going to move forward and work together. But we have to have the confrontation first to break through. You know, the pain is necessary in order to break through.
Who's going to bring the confrontation?
Probably you.
And be like, what are we doing, people? We're like polarizing ourselves even more. That's the thing that just like, it's like having an opinion is not allowed anymore. If you have an opinion about something, it's like,
yeah,
it needs to be, no, you have a strong opinion about something, that's not allowed. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about that too with like our political views, and I've, you know.
Well, here's the thing. It's like
thing to the wrong person, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've never.
Well, it's like if you don't have a political opinion right now, and I abandoned that on purpose, willfully, after being trained as a news political junkie my entire life, and I said no more 20 years ago. And so that makes my reentry back into the environment of media very interesting. And so I still won't choose sides ever, because that's the distraction. And I think that from different angles, that's why Scorpio people and Aquarius people get along well, because Scorpio knows the dark night of the soul that everybody has to pass through in order to get to the age of Aquarius, you know, in a very real way. Aquarius is just already the visionary, the Pied Piper that's leading us there.
I never really thought about that before. I just thought that I wasn't very good at expressing my opinions, or very, like, you know, that it just wasn't something that I could really, not that I couldn't understand it, because of course I understand it. It's just not something that, like, I felt like, because I can see, but it's because I can see both sides of the argument.
Exactly.
I'm just like, well, yeah, that's totally valid. And then I'm like looking at this side, I'm like, that's also equally just as valid.
And newsflash to everybody, there might actually be a third, fourth, or possibly even a fifth perspective on everything that's going on right now.
So
there are not only two sides. I'm sorry, but in the age of technology and information, I refuse to accept that humanity is too stupid to only see two options or two ways to solve the issues that we're facing as a collective now. So yeah. I won't even engage in those kinds of debates, because I know that there is a third side, that there is a fourth side and a fifth side, and all sorts of integrated, you know, versions of the same. And I'm tired of staying in emotional spaces and not getting into more policy. You know, it's like the time for these extreme emotions are over. You know, it's like we have so many philosophers who have warned of the dangers of making decisions in the moments of passion. You know, it's like, shh, everybody calm down, settle down, simmer down now, you know? Yeah. But at any rate, but yeah, this is refreshing. Look at all the like the Aquarius is just, Aquarian energy is just dominated that completely. And yes, new beginnings are happening, and it's divinely orchestrated. You know, we are on this funky timeline.
The age of Aquarius.
We're the age of Aquarius, you know, where they got the math wrong in terms of the end of the Mayan calendar, and here we are, 2021. You know, this is, and then everybody talking about reset. I mean, you know, and it's like all of it is converging now. We all know this. And yet, you know, it's, we're still, I don't know. I can't wait until we all want to like sit down and make a new plan. And that's why I like hanging out with you, because it's like, let's make a plan. Let's do something.
The population is in like work camps where they're provided their meals, and they just have to make, like, you know, technology for somebody else in exchange for their food and housing.
You know, I'll tell you something. The stories that the media tells with regards to this kind of thing, I'm sorry. It's like, it might occasionally happen on a small scale, but certainly I don't ever see it getting to the scale that, you know, the ones who want us to be afraid. Like, this is the thing on both sides. If the objective to the information is to instill fear,
mission accomplished, I'd say.
right? And tell me both sides aren't guilty of that.
Oh, absolutely. Fear mongering from all directions. That's why I'm like really happy in my little like hypno bubble.
And that's kind of the whole thing. It's like it, you know, then it becomes the cliche. What you're focusing your energy on is what's going to grow. Which wolf will you feed? You know, how many different ways do you want to say it? You know, are you going to feed the wolf that, you know, are you going to sit there and literally eat popcorn at the decay and destruction of what needs to go away? Or are you, you know, I don't know, just grabbing some sunshine in between, you know, things that you're painting, drawing, you know, self-examination.
Go have that existential crisis, man. It'll be good for you.
Yeah.
Because then you're not be living in fear anymore.
Well, and there's no better time for it. So, you know, this is what's happening. And we're the ones that help people see the, you know, the need and the benefit. So
it's fun to reinvent yourself.
Oh, big time. Big time. That's another thing that Scorpios and Aquariuses have in common.
Maybe that's why we like Mexico so much.
Yeah.
Video that you sent me, it's like only here. There was one little. It was like a video about like life in Mexico and like real Mexico and like living here and the people here and how they are, like, you know, what they're passionate about. And there was one line, I don't know exactly what it said, but it was something about like being able to live in a place where on a daily basis people have to they have to. It's not that they choose to. They have to reinvent themselves.
It's
because
survival.
So, and it's like, and that's it. It's, but it's done in such a way that's not out of like, it's not out of a desperation. It's just like, this is what I need to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and like, it's done with passion and joy, and you know.
Yeah.
And it's a part of living life. It's like how you live. You know, this is what we're going to do today. Today we're going to sell this thing. And then, well, when that, you know, when we run out of that and we have money for this, then we're going to sell this thing, or, you know, like just.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key to survival through this time really is to tap into the creative part of who you are. Not because you need to be productive, but in the same way that grief is something where, you know, a good way that I heard someone describe grief is that grief is love with no place to go. So it's like with this dynamic of, am I of use to anything? You know, I think that we don't think enough about how much as humans we need to be needed in some respect. So it's a really good time for those who really want to be of service, you know, and I think a lot of people are being sparked in that respect. You know, they really want to assist those who are struggling through a time where, I mean, we don't know how long or what the effects are for how long many of us have been isolated. We really don't.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's an important time to reach out to people. Not because, you know, it's important for people to be productive. It's that there's a psychological, emotional need to be needed. And when you're in isolation, you don't know necessarily where you fit in anymore, because you start to forget how you fit into your community. You know, you start to forget, you know, what you actually brought to the table.
So my father has been like essentially in lockdown for several months now. And it's been at least 3 months since he's been able to go for a haircut.
Right.
You don't think of those things when you're able to do that. He doesn't have anybody else in his household that can grab a pair of scissors and cut the back of his like mullet off. But I mean, like that, to me, that's like, my dad's almost 80 years old. Also, so like for him to have his hair, it's like
It's
like, you know, it's one of those things of like feeling human, you know, like
it's dignity.
Yeah.
It's dignity, you know, and I remember, you know, the elderly women who have since passed in my family. And I remember how important it was for them that they got their hair done once a week. You know, like they even had these special little foamy things that had Velcro, like to, you know, that they would put around it to go to sleep so that it would preserve the set or whatever they called it. You know what I mean? It's like it was so important to them. And then even in their nursing homes, you know, it's like the things that made us feel human, we've been separate from, you know.
Haircut, like can't even
Dignity.
can't even like his bangs are in his face. It's like his hair is just
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I feel so terrible. I'm like, can nobody come and give this man a haircut? No, because he can't even see anybody right now. He's not allowed to see he's allowed to see one person outside of his household, and he has like, you're allowed to have like a designated person. But she does like toilet paper deliveries to the doorstep, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, the only contact that my dad has otherwise is just over the phone, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and not to mention, you know, the lack of touch.
Thursday is International Hug Day. And you know what? I was like, I'm going to make a post for that on my Hypno website. But then I was like, shit, I got to consider like that I have to be socially COVID responsible now. I can't go and tell people and give people a hug because that's not safe. How terrible is that?
I know.
Give yourself a hug.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, yeah. And, you know, it's like as frustrating as it is, I think too that, you know, we've got such a huge spectrum of where people sit around all of this lockdown stuff. For some people, they're getting a lot of comfort out of it. They don't want to see anybody. They don't want anybody to touch them. They, you know what I mean? It's like they're like, nope, I'm not going to see you. I love you and all of that. And then you've got on the way other end of the spectrum, it's like, fuck this, I'm going to do whatever I want, you know? And it's like, I mean, thankfully, I haven't been in a position where someone I love or someone close to me, you know, is ill or in the hospital or passed, you know, and I haven't had to feel those feelings, but wow, when I see people, you know, reporting on it, it's like, you know, yeah, it's like, again, I have no opinion in any direction because I don't know enough to have one. None of us do, as far as I'm concerned, but that's another story. So the thing is that, you know, I'm okay with following the rules, but I don't like it. I don't think any of us like it, but you know, some people are feeling more secure with it. Other people are frustrated and angry. And then other people kind of lie somewhere else in the spectrum. So, and until all of this stuff gets resolved, you know, and we watch how people respond to vaccines, And, you know, I mean, there's lots of issues around them, even like how quickly they can be distributed to all countries and whether it's equitable. You know, the political levels of it, of the vaccine, go so many levels. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and that's globally as well as within each country and policies and what have you. But I don't think travel is going to be the same ever again. Yeah, it's like I've got the rest of the research I want to do for all of the astrology for February. So basically it's going to be all about Aquarius, the stellium, and I'm pulling apart the Saturn square, so Mercury retrograde, Saturn square, the stellium, just generally talking about how, you know, from February 1st to 15th, it's essentially the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and the asteroid Pallas, which I'll look into more. And then just talk about Venus entering Aquarius and what that means for all the signs in terms of love. And then the Mars in Taurus was also something I stumbled on. So I was like, oh, right, I should definitely talk about Mars and Taurus. So at least it won't be retrograde. Mars doesn't go retrograde at all this year, thank God.
Thank God.
Because that was gnarly shit was that. Holy crap.